So some of you may have heard that there was a little bit of a controversy going on regarding Tulsi Gabbard's position on healthcare. And this is something that actually a couple of progressives have gone after each other on and kind of disagreed on. One being a Tulsi supporter and the other one being not so much a Tulsi supporter, maybe more of a, obviously more of a Bernie supporter, of course, because those are the people. If you've seen on Twitter, those are the people that are, kind of going after Tulsi more, because they obviously, the Bernie supporters such as myself, I also support Tulsi, but Bernie supporters such as myself are very concerned about the prospect of obviously Medicare-For-All existing, and we want to make sure that that's a policy that whoever the president is, regardless of progressive or not, that's something that we're going to push them on. And so the people that were going after each other it was down to two guys specifically. It was Mike Figueredo from Humanist Report and Nico House, who also has his own show as well. They were going at it on Twitter mostly. I think each of them posted a video. I believe Nico House's video addressed Mike Figueredo specifically. I don't believe that Mike Figueredo addressed Nico House. I haven't watched his video yet. I haven't had time. I only saw part of Nico's video, so I can't fully comment on what each of them said. However, they did address their grievances on Twitter, and I don't believe they have come to any kind of consensus or any kind of agreement on anything. Everybody is kind of begging them to, get along and kind of, debated on one show and stuff. I mean, if they would want to do that, they would probably need a moderator, but which has happened, before with two different parties when it comes to new media hosts. So I wanted to address Tulsi's position on Medicare-For-All. I have some issues with the way she has articulated her position. I do not. I don't think she's anti-Medicare-For-All. I believe that seems to be what a lot of the people do think. That are going against her. So they think like, well, she used this language, it's not that good, and, it needs to be better, blah, blah, blah. So, but let me play you some of her statements. So I think it was two statements that she made have made me a little bit concerned. And that's mainly the two statements that people are going based on. I haven't seen anywhere where she has strayed away from these specific talking points, and she's kind of stuck with these talking points. And so I wanted to play these clips for you guys. So the first one is a clip of her speaking to CNN's Anderson Cooper, and this was actually after the second round of debates that they had. So there was the debates with this is after the debates that obviously featured Tulsi, and then she gave statements afterwards. She was talking about Kamala Harris and her going at it, and then also she was addressing Kamala Harris's position on Medicare-For-All, and then that's where Tulsi gave her position on Medicare-For-All. So let me play you this clip for you guys first, and then we're going to talk about it on the other side.
In terms of healthcare, where are you on the spectrum of,
We've been hearing a lot about that.
Yes, Medicare-For-All
Yeah.
or improve Obamacare.
Yeah.
Where are you?
Well, first, let me just say our objective has to and must be making sure that no person, no American who is sick in this country should go without care because they can't afford it. That's why I have been and continue to be a supporter for Medicare-For-All that would guarantee that healthcare, that quality healthcare for every single American in this country. I also believe, like every other developed country in the world that has universal healthcare, that there is a role for private insurance to play for those who want it.
Do you think for those who are embracing taking away private insurance from people, ultimately, is that just strategically, politically, a non-starter?
I don't know about the politics of it. I just think about it from the perspective of people, of the American people, that if all of a sudden you are taking away their choice, that's not a very American thing, in my opinion. I think our responsibility as leaders is to meet the challenge and address the problems that people are facing, that they are suffering because of big insurance and big pharma's influence over our healthcare system for so long, how they are profiting on the backs of sick people. So let's do our job, try to bring down the cost of healthcare in this country that's exorbitant, make sure people can get the quality care they need, and if they still choose that that's not what they want, they can go get the private insurance.
So that's not a very good response from Tulsi at first glance, in the first viewing of that. And that's something that people, myself included, took issue with. And we said, ooh, that's a little bit troubling. That's not, when you bring up the idea of giving people private insurance, that is not something that progressives want. And we obviously need to get rid of the private insurance markets and the private insurers so that they can't influence the existence of public healthcare, which is an insurance. It's just public healthcare. So it's just healthcare that you give to people. Now, obviously, there's different forms of it. There's public funding of public institutions. There's public funding of private institutions. Private funding of private institutions, so on and so forth. So there's just all different kinds. But generally, pretty much every industrialized country has these types of forms of Medicare, and they're referred to as single payer. Now, how you want to do it with private or public is that's a deeper conversation. But when it comes to saying that Americans need to be given a choice and can't, it's not very American to take away their choices. In other words, to take away their choices to be screwed over by the insurance companies. That's not a very good argument. And somebody else said this, and I kind of agree with it, but that's kind of a John Delaney framing. John Delaney is one of the assholes that's running in the primary, and he's just going out there and he's, basically doing the bidding of the establishment and the insurance companies. Now, I'm not saying that Tulsi is. I just think that Tulsi, her issue is the framing of how she puts her opinions or statements on, this particular issue. Mentioning the whole private insurance or private market or whatever, like that's a red flag for everybody, right? And that's a problem, and that's something that she shouldn't be saying. Now, I want to play this other clip for you guys, and then I'm going to explain to you why I don't believe that is her position. But let me just play this clip for you guys, and then, I'll just explain a little bit further after that. So check it out.
Now, there's a lot of work that we have ahead of us, and we talked about a couple of them. The thing that I hear most from people is about healthcare, about how most families in this country are one healthcare emergency away from total bankruptcy and disaster. How is it possible that in this country that we spend far more as a country on healthcare, yet we have far worse outcomes? It's unacceptable. This is why I support passing Medicare-For-All legislation that will make sure that every single American is able to get the care that we need in this country. Private insurance, if you want to choose that route and go for a private option, that's up to you. But we've got to make sure that no one is turned away when they are sick and in need of care.
Okay, so there again, that's another red flag. And she mentions private care, giving people the freedom to get that private care if they choose to get it. Now, listen. First of all, the whole idea of having the choices. So like public option, private option, blah, all that stuff. Like you can't give. When you frame it in that way, because listen, this is the framing that has been used forever. So it's like, oh yeah, you have a public option, and then if you don't want the public option, you don't need to have it. So you have an option, you have choices. But at the end of the day, like I said, if you're letting those public the private insurance option to be there, then you're allowing people to be screwed over by the insurance industry and the private insurers, and we can't have that. So why would you want to give them a choice to have that? It just doesn't make any sense. But unfortunately, this framing has always existed, and it's been perpetuated, obviously, and obviously pushed by the Republican Party and any politician out there that is pro insurance, pro private insurance, pro big corporation. Essentially, anybody that is kind of is beholden to those entities. And again, I don't feel like that's what Tulsi is. So let me explain. I believe the issue with her in this regard specifically is that I believe her framing of the issue is incorrect. Obviously, it's incorrect just on its face. But I'm saying the way she's explaining it is just not good, and that's not the way you should frame. You should frame an issue that involves, again, private insurance, public insurance, all that stuff, public healthcare. So when she's putting it in a way of like, well, you have to have the choice. Well, no, you don't have to have the choice, because you shouldn't have the choice, because then you're allowing the choice to you're allowing the choice to exist for the private insurers to fuck you over, essentially. And what she needs to do, and this is something she's actually said before, I believe she said it during, it may have been the first debate or the second debate, I don't remember which one. Of course, the first or second debate, I'm referring to with the ones with her, of course. But nobody else has said this, but unless it was Bernie too, he may have as well. But I'm just specifically discussing her. With her, she needs to frame it in the context of these so-called private insurers. She needs to refer to them as supplemental insurance. So she actually brought this up, I think, when she refused to raise her hand when they asked the moderators in the first debate. They asked all the candidates. They said, "Do all of you support getting rid of private insurance?" Because that's what Medicare-For-All does. It gets rid of the private insurance. And she did not raise her hand. Everybody was like, "Whoa, that's kind of weird. Why would you refuse to do that?" And what she explained afterwards, or even during the debate, she said that I support supplemental insurance. I support the opportunity for anybody who wants to get a different type of insurance. I'm sorry, a different type of care. So let's just say chiropractic care. Let's say plastic surgery. These kind of things. And this is something that she had laid out. And I don't believe Bernie Sanders made that case because Bernie Sanders has also said that he supports supplemental care. So my point is that when Tulsi puts it in the framing of private insurance, she's not doing it correctly. Now I don't know who's advising her specifically on this. I don't know who her health policy advisor is and all that stuff. But anything that she is saying in the context of private insurance or having that option or having that freedom, that's not the way you're supposed to do it. You need to put it in the framing of a supplemental care. And my guess is the reason why she doesn't want to put it in, and maybe it's the wrong reason, but it's just my guess. I can't come to any other conclusion. I think the reason why she's not putting it into the framing of supplemental insurance or supplemental care is because Bernie Sanders, again, has put it that way. And since he did it, she doesn't want to mimic him. She doesn't want to copy him. And that's fine. I understand that. But at the end of the day, if you're saying something that doesn't sound right, or it completely contradicts your position on something like this, especially where it's really complicated and it's really it's really it's a complex discussion. It's a complex debate. And when it's not clear, people are going to be like, "Wait, what the fuck? What's going on?" You either support a Medicare-For-All system or you don't. And she, like she said in that speech, that was a speech that she gave in front of a crowd, and I don't remember where it was, but she gave a speech, and that was a campaign video released by her team, Tulsi 2020, and this is what she said. And so they put that out there. They know what she said, so it's like there's no mystery there as far as what they want her to be saying, and the rhetoric she wants to put out there. It's just that the way they put out the rhetoric is wrong, and it's not the right way to do it. You need to frame it in the scenario, in the kind of the scenario of Medicare-For-All with supplemental insurance, which is exactly what Bernie Sanders supports, and he has stated that multiple times, because he does want people to have the choice to get insurance that is not covered by Medicare-For-All, such as, like I said, chiropractic work and plastic surgery. That may not be as important to some people, but it exists. People do that. no matter what you want to do, you should have the choice to get those kind of things done if you want to. And if people want to pay extra for that, I totally understand doing that. And it's probably not a very big market among, majority of Americans. I mean, majority of Americans, I don't know if they're getting chiropractic care. I've done it, plastic surgery. I've never done that. I don't know. I can't really speak on that. Now, chiropractic work I did a long time ago. It's not something I've done recently, but it is something I have done. But I'm just speaking for myself, and it seems like, but that kind of stuff seems like, well, apparently chiropractic work has been criticized for not, basically being voodoo, or not so much voodoo, just being like fake. It's just like not really, it's not backed up by science essentially. But whatever, people, if they want to get that, that's fine. And I could understand if, a Medicare-For-All system, doctors, they don't want to cover that, right? I get that, and I understand that. So why not allow that to be covered under what Tulsi refers to as a private plan, when it should just be supplemental? And again, Bernie has said this, Tulsi is saying this, but Tulsi is saying it in the wrong way. She needs to frame it much, much better, and somebody needs to tell her that, because it's completely off base, and it's making her look like she's a supporter of a public option instead of like a private, like instead of just a full-on Medicare. You know what I'm saying? It's really complicated. You can't get a grasp of what exactly she's saying. It's really strange. So anyway, this is something that Kyle Klinsky of Secular Talk addressed, and he was doing one of his talking smack hours. This is something he does, I think it's on a weekly or sometimes, every other week basis. And he just kind of goes on his, in front of his camera and stuff. And he just answers questions from fans of the show and people that are watching. And so he addressed this situation in this video. And then I want you guys to take a look at this. This is something that Nico House actually posted. And then he kind of promoted this as like, oh, look, this is the right explanation as to why Tulsi Gabbard is doing what she's doing. So check this video out, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
Don Lemon pushes her on it and says, like, yeah, but you're for eliminating private insurance. And the original question was like 70% of Americans like their private insurance or something along those lines. And, the response to that, she gave you the right response to that, and this originally came from Bernie. The response is, well, no, that's a little misleading. It's over 70% of Americans want to keep their doctor. And under Medicare-For-All, you can keep your doctor. So she gave that answer, which is the correct answer, but she admittedly stole it from Bernie. But then here's the part where I went, holy shit, she gets it. She goes, Lemon pushes her, oh, so you want to eliminate all private health insurance? Like, that basically seems kind of radical. And she goes, no, I'm for supplemental private health insurance. And he goes, well, under the bill you're supporting, in 4 years or so, experts say it eliminates private health insurance. And she responds, well, yeah, it's the primary source of insurance, but you could always get supplemental insurance. I don't ban supplemental insurance. That's the correct answer, because it allows for this idea of freedom still existing, so you can do what you want, but it also covers the bases because you're saying the default system is going to be the correct system, which is a single-payer system, which is a Medicare-For-All system, which every other developed country has.
See, so that's a great explanation by Kyle. He framed that perfectly. This is exactly the framing that the Tulsi Gabbard campaign and Tulsi Gabbard herself should be using when responding to this question. Instead of talking about private insurance, private option, or private care, whatever you want to refer to it, private. Just the term private is, it kind of freaks people out when it comes to the people, especially specifically people on the left, I mean. And when she puts it like that, it doesn't sound right. And of course, it makes people kind of, wonder what she's talking about. If you put it in the frame of supplemental private or private supplement, whatever you want to, whatever kind of derivative of those words you want to put in, put them together. That's what they're referring to. Whether it's, whatever it is, it's supplemental care though. And I don't know if there's a public supplemental care, but whatever. I mean, it's supplemental care regardless. And in the idea of supplemental care being private, it makes sense because it's a separate type of care, and these are for things that maybe public, a public system doesn't want to cover, such as like I said, plastic surgery and chiropractic work, and I don't know what else there is out there, acupuncture, I don't know, who knows. I'm not really familiar with that kind of stuff. Like I said, I've done chiropractic I've received chiropractic treatment, but that's not something I have done a lot. But I am familiar with it, and all the other ones out there I'm not very familiar with. So, but either way, it would be understandable for people who would want to receive that kind of care, and then they should be able to be covered for that under a private type of system. And it makes sense. And again, Kyle addressed it that way. And this, like I said, this is something that Nico House promoted. I don't know if Mike from Humanist Report has seen that clip, but it's very important to put this conversation into context and understand that this is about getting a Medicare-For-All system, but understanding that the candidates maybe a lot of times are not able to articulate their point of views as well as you would want them to. And a lot of times they don't do that, and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And I think it's smart to look into it, with a little bit more objectivity. No offense to Nico or Mike for not being, for not that they're not objective, but I'm saying I'm not saying they're not being objective. I'm just saying from my point of view, I'm trying to look at it in a more objective sense, and not being like, oh, I'm team Tulsi, or I'm team whatever, not Tulsi, or I can't stand Tulsi, or she's wrong about this, because Mike has said that he isn't anti-Tulsi, but then Nico has questioned him for that and said, no, you just you're hating on Tulsi, and you're saying all these things, and it's not right. And you initially you say I like Tulsi and I support Tulsi, but then but I don't think that's the case. I don't think Mike is anti-Tulsi, and objectively looking at it, I believe that Mike is raising some interesting questions. I just don't think he's putting it in the right way when he's saying that she supports private care. I don't think she supports private care. I think she supports it for just those specific things like I mentioned, the supplemental care. You need to put it that way. Like when you're criticizing Tulsi Gabbard, look at it in that way, because obviously we've all seen the debates, we've all seen all these statements that they've made, and she made clear that it was the supplemental kind of care angle that she went after, that she kind of laid in, kind of put into the ground. She put her foot down and said, that's what I support. She supports the supplemental care system, private supplemental care. And that's what she wants for those reasons, as I explained. And that's a perfectly understandable explanation back then, but then all of a sudden her talking points have changed, and for some reason she's decided to use the term private option. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. And it seems like a lot of these people are they're just they're talking past each other, specifically when it comes to Mike and Nico and stuff. And I've seen their conversations. I've stayed out of it mostly. For the most part, I've stayed out of it. I've had conversations with people. One of the people is, her name is Sophia. She was actually on Nico House's show, his one of his episodes, and they were discussing this matter. And Nico was putting out this, statement and kind of explaining, why he's going after Mike and his kind of beef with Mike, or whatever you want to call it. And they were, he was explaining to everybody, to his viewers and stuff, what argument he's trying to make. Again, I don't know if Mike from Humanist Report went after him in his video. I'm gonna have to check that out. And then I can put both those videos for you guys in the description box below. You can check that out and make up your own mind on that. But I just think, largely what them two are doing, and a lot of the people that are commenting on this situation, they're just talking past each other. They're just talking, yelling at each other and not actually having a conversation, it seems like. And Mike said he muted a bunch of people, and then, maybe even blocked, but he muted a bunch of people, didn't want to have anything to do with them. And just listen. Go look into the different debates. I covered the debate, the first debate, when she said she supported supplemental care. I know Bernie supports supplemental care. Kyle has made the same argument. Kyle, like you guys just saw, he made the argument in this video of his. And I mean, unless something is out of context there, that argument from that point from Kyle, where he clarifies Tulsi's stance, is pretty clear to me. And if somebody wants to, address that and say it's wrong or something, please come out with some sort of, some sort of statement, because I'm not seeing anything wrong with what he's saying there, and I completely agree with it. And he's Kyle's being a very good mutual arbiter in that regard, and kind of, if he has gotten involved, I don't think he has, but I'm saying, like, as far as kind of defending Tulsi and saying, okay, this is what she supports, I support that, and that's kind of something I'm trying to do in this debate. I'm sorry, in this video as well, because I don't want this debate to just not. It's becoming a shit show, and it's a bunch of people just yelling at each other and not really understanding what the other person is saying, while trying to honestly make statements that are incorrect about this specific candidate in this regard, being Tulsi Gabbard. So hopefully we can actually have a conversation, have a discussion, and understand what that other person is saying, instead of just ignoring it and giving our own interpretation, which is probably not going to be correct, because we all look at things through the lens of our own bias, and we need to stop doing that.